She's here in LA. Guess who we're podcasting with? It's the fabulous Jenna Andrews. Jenna, I want a recording studio like yours.
Oh my gosh, well come on. It's here for
In
you.
Nashville? I'm going to come to Nashville.
You gotta come to Nashville.
I really haven't been.
I'm telling you, it's all set up. You're gonna love it. It's like a whole oasis, so I'm ready.
Well, she's so fabulous, you guys. This is singer, songwriter,
Yeah.
actress,
I love
influencer,
it. No, God. Executive producer.
psychological coach,
Literally, by the way,
therapist.
100% psychological.
Jenna Andrews on Instagram. You got to check her out. One of my favorite people for many years.
I love you.
And I'm so proud of you. She has a new podcast. It's
Yes.
not that new. It's been around.
It's been around since COVID, actually. So it's been, I think for me, it's all about the baby steps. And it's just one of those things that I think is a passion project. So it's not like a rush to
And
get.
what's it called?
The Green Room Talks.
The Green Room Talks. And it's all about what?
Mental health.
Yeah, this is so important.
It really is. I mean, it's something that I've always struggled with. So I think, and it's something that everyone struggles with to a certain extent, that whether you talk about it or not, and it's just important to be able to have an outlet and to be able to express yourself. And it's just so cathartic. So that's why I love it.
That's amazing. You're in the beauty, I'm in the beauty industry. You're in the music industry.
I might as well be in the beauty industry.
There's a lot of
No, I'm kidding.
overlap, and I think there's a lot of pressure in the music industry.
There's so much pressure. I mean, the thing is that I think we were talking about this last time, on my side at least, like I've been an artist and I've, like you've just said, you've given me the nicest intro, but whether or not you're an artist or, a producer and I'm talking obviously as a female, right? But like, all these things, there's just so much pressure to look a certain way, act a certain way, all these type of things. And I think, from the artist perspective, you're constantly worried about being objectified. And, a lot of that is to do with like first impressions. And in terms of the beauty sense of it, I think, this business has been centered around, oh, does she have the look kind of vibe? And it's a lot of pressure because it's, to be able to not feel like you can just wake up in the morning and be yourself is really stressful. And I think on the other side of things, when you're behind the desk, it's still, there's a sense of that, of course, just because people, it's like, I mean, the best example is like if you were to say, you're a successful person, right? And you invite someone over to work with you and then you happen to live in a home that they feel isn't great. They may be like, oh, I don't want to work with you. But that shouldn't be the case. I think people shouldn't judge so much on superficial things in the entertainment business. And I'm not sure, it's not like this one conversation is going to solve everything overnight. But I don't know. That's the part of this business I've always really hated. And I know that like obviously you being in the beauty business, you've talked about it so much, and obviously the way people struggle coming in here wanting to get so many surgeries. Yeah.
I really feel a lot of sympathy for my actresses and musicians because you're so vulnerable. You're these creatures who strip your soul and you give your most emotional bare thoughts, and yet you realize as soon as you walk in a room for an audition or to talk with a producer, like you're being judged from top to bottom.
100%.
What does she look like? Is she pretty enough? Is she marketable enough? And like it's such a added stress. Like we want your creative spirit. Like we want that passionate creator to not go away. But like I can't imagine having to worry about how glamorous you look and how your outfit has to be just right on top of like your soul-bearing song.
I mean, 100%. Like I did a little bit of it. I mean, I can't speak to obviously being an actress, but I mean, I've done like a lot of auditions for certain shows and things like that. And I know that like they base whether or not they're going to cast you half the time just on your slate when you go in, right? It's like they don't even look at your audition.
Even for a musician, isn't that the case? That like you have to have a certain look and a presence and a...
It really is, and that's the thing. I mean, the presence part I get, right?
Yeah.
Because I mean, that's your personality, and that's what it should be based on. And I think, to a certain extent, feel good, right? I understand the idea of, especially being a woman, wanting to walk in the room, feel confident, wear what you want, put makeup the way you want, put your like whatever, do your hair the way you want to feel beautiful in your own self, and that I totally understand. But when you start doing it for other people is where it starts to get really stressful. And, just to feel the pressure that you have to walk in and everyone has to like check off that you look all the parts that you're supposed to is really hard when you're trying to focus on the things that really matter, right? It's like what should matter is you selling whatever talent you have and all those things, but the fact that women have to have this on their brains all the time is
it's so stressful. Beauty standards are so harsh. I mean, someone like Lady Gaga, who was like in the raw, like
right,
working nightclubs and bars and small venues, and she came up beautiful in her own right, and then
exactly
completely, and of course I respect every woman's decision to do that, but the way that she just redid her whole image, I just felt like it was such a lot of standards that were underground inflicted on her over the course of her lifetime, and finally she came into time and money and ability to just revamp her whole image, and then to me that lost some of her essence of beauty.
Well, I mean,
like her individuality. So I mean, she is still so amazing. I can't say anything negative about anyone, but I just feel like I mean, I think of artists and I want them to be so raw and unique.
That's how I feel. I feel like a person. There's only one of you.
Yes.
So I feel like that's the thing. Like you should be able to walk in. That's what I was trying to say before, and feel like you're independently beautiful. Like there's nobody that you're comparing yourself to. Yeah. However, I feel like a hypocrite because I feel these ways. I can't lie by saying that these other thoughts don't come into my head, and it's
you know, see both sides of it. Because as a producer, and like you want someone who's talented to be successful financially, and also hit the big venues where they can show the world who they are. Right. And they sometimes can't do that unless they have a certain branding, image, or marketability, which goes back to image, like body standards and images.
Oh my gosh. And like for me personally, going back to like why I started the Green Room Talks, I struggled a lot with anxiety as a kid, and I had like a pretty severe eating disorder, and
I did not know that.
Really? Oh yeah, I was really bad. I was hospitalized. I had like almost had kidney failure.
Oh.
Yeah, no, it was crazy. And so like, and that was before I was really in the entertainment business, which is crazy. So coming into this vulturous tank, when you already have dealt with stuff like that, has given me perspective that, you know, I don't even know how to really put into words, but I felt like it was my responsibility to do a mental health podcast to help young women coming up in our industry to understand that they're not alone, I guess, because you look and to your greatest idols, right, and you think, oh, they look amazing, their lives are amazing, but truthfully, in my experience as a songwriter, and I've worked with a lot of big celebrities, and I'm sure you've worked with celebrities yourself, and I think that in that sense, you have to think like, they all go through something, and that's the truth. And when I started this, I was surprised how many of those people were willing to come onto the Green Room and talk about their struggles as well, which I think is really the point. It's just saying that, listen, like, we're all people, and we're all dealing with the same things in different ways. And, you know, if you choose to go into entertainment, I think there's a lot of beauty in that, in the sense that, like, you're expressing what you love, and that should be what it's about. But when these things come into play, let's just have people we can talk to about it, so we don't feel so alienated when we go to sleep at night and feel like we're alone, I guess. What
are some of the tools you use to deal with that, coming into this industry and having that vulnerability? And like,
I know.
Do you cry a lot?
Yeah, I know, literally.
Crying is therapeutic. So
crying is so therapeutic. You know what? I think, funny enough, music has been therapy to me. I think the actual act of doing something you love is very therapeutic. So that's
maybe
sort of
being a creator, like creative content.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Like, I feel like when you come out of writing a song, there's nothing like that feeling. Or just coming across, like, you know, when I'm recording a vocal, for example, and you just get that one take, it's just better than anything that you could ever feel. So for me, that's completely like, that's my cure. Which is kind of funny that it comes back to this industry that you love so much in so many ways, but this poison that sort of stays at the door at all times that you have to try to avoid, not to get killed by, right? So it's kind of, I mean, it's an interesting question.
You're kind of unique, because being a woman and having gone through all that, and then you're mentoring young women as they enter into music and helping them songwrite and stuff. And like, that's great that you can do that.
Well, I mean, that's sort of, I feel like, in a weird way, not to be like esoteric, but I think it's sort of been my purpose. I found my purpose along the way, because as an artist in my own self, I think the anxiety aspect of it and the pressure was the thing that I really couldn't, I don't want to say couldn't handle or felt defeated by, but made a personal choice after I got dropped from my record label that I wanted to focus on being behind the scenes more, just because of what I felt it was doing to my mental health. And not to say that I feel that that's the advice I would give somebody coming up, because by no means do I feel like you should, you know, not go for the dream that you absolutely want. But for me, it felt like the personal choice that felt great, because I felt like I was still truly living my dreams without putting myself through something that I wasn't sure I could handle. So it's become something that I feel like I'm, you know, so passionate about helping helping artists in general, but helping women especially, because I think, again, it is hard. And even being me today, it's just, the pressure is crazy. I mean, no matter what, you always feel like when you go through this for so long, I think no matter what, it's like having an eating disorder or alcoholism or those kind of things, to some extent that never goes away, right? Yeah. So every day you wake up and you still put so much pressure on yourself.
Still, you're in this industry that's probably 90% male dominated, right? The executives, the producers, 100%. The companies. It's kind of like aesthetics. We treat 90% of our patients are women, and 90% of the injectors out there are women, and 10% of us are running the executive branch of like big decision making at big companies. So it's the same thing in the music industry. It's all men running it. 100%. And all men determining what's beautiful, what's sexy, what's advertised to you, and what's determined to be a beauty standard you should follow.
And that's a major problem.
You wouldn't sexualize someone and make them all vampy and like you have to look like this in order to go on the stage.
No, but actually, I was thinking as I was about to respond to what you said, women are harder on women though than men are on women.
That is.
But beauty standards have changed now. I feel like now it's.
Do you think it's for real?
I think it's for real. I think that like obviously curves are in.
I love how skin of color is now everywhere.
Yeah,
like, that's awesome. How and that was Rihanna. Thank you, Rihanna, for bringing that makeup to the. Like bring that entire aisle to the makeup store.
I think that women it's a real thing. I think women want curves more now than they did, 10 years ago for sure. I think that it's like there's a certain sex appeal to it. Do I think
every size body is now at least represented?
I think so. Yeah. I think it's honestly, I think more now than ever before. I just think that like, it's not to say that obviously the body image is not like still a big problem, but I think more than anything it's still like the youth culture that's the worst. I think body image has gotten better. What do you think?
So there is a lot of age discrimination.
I think so.
I think definitely, like especially for women.
Oh,
like you can be a Rolling Stone and look like an old man, and everybody still loves you. But can you become an old woman performer? Not really. Not really.
It's so crazy. Isn't that crazy?
Yes.
Well, I mean, not to say that I don't know if you can say this or not, but what is like the craziest stuff that you see, or the things that get asked of you? Is that
the things to do?
Like,
I mean, in general, it's just like this
that you feel
that it's we can use syringes of filler and surgeries like there's some kind of wand, like it's magic. Like there is a certain amount of aging that people have to learn to accept,
right?
And a certain amount of imperfection.
I'm glad that you said that.
Yeah, like we have to give permission to age to women. It's not like you get some lines and wrinkles and we throw you out the back door. Like, we need women to understand that there is beauty, character, and presence, and there's such a thing as wanting to look your best and feel best internally.
The thing listen, at the end of the day, we are, again, going back to the fact that we're all human, I think the aging process, if you were to think about yourself every decade, right? It's actually pretty beautiful. I, in myself, still have, I'm pretty honest about who I am, and, I don't really like to hide a lot. I wear my heart on my sleeve. So, I have anxiety, I feel the pressure. I still deal with a lot of mental health things. But I think, with that being said, as I've, lived life, I feel like I have a lot more grounding in who I am today than I did as a kid, just because I really do think when I wake up, I have, a purpose. I think that, I do love myself, is my point. And I think as a kid, I don't know that I did. So I think in that sense, yes, you have the pressure, but if somebody were to really ask themselves, the beauty of what life really gives us, I think that's the experiences that we experience is what you know, really helps us grow to love ourselves. And I think that's really beautiful.
What age do you think you started to love yourself?
Oh, that's a good question.
Yeah.
Probably like 28. That's crazy. But around 28, I feel like I started to be like, okay, Jenna, I see you.
I understand who I am.
No, but
I survived them.
I think that I started just to be like, when I walk into a room, I started being like, felt the power in it. So then that's how I realized that, wow, okay, like, I actually feel like something is connecting in me. Whether I still feel those other like things that come get me and all these pressures, 100%. But there's like the other side that really keeps me being like, no, I think I'm okay. So it keeps me going and keeps me loving myself and loving my journey. So
you know what? I think you got a lot of that because you've developed your skill set outside of just being a beautiful face and like a fun person. Like in life, you have to have skills that are going to stay with you till you die. Like your ability to make music, produce music. You're a writer, you're a songwriter, you're like you know your worth. Like someone could take all the beauty and all the external fixtures away and you'd still have all of that passion and creativity.
Exactly.
The art and the strength of you. I think that's helped me a lot too in my life. Like
Really?
Yeah, because like I'm a surgeon. I can do all these things that no one else in the world can do, and I just knowing your knowledge base and feeling strong about I've mastered this one thing. It's like it doesn't even matter anymore. What do I look like? What do I act like? Who likes me? I am what I am.
That's what I'm saying, and I think I love that, and I think beyond that, I think your character is something that is really admirable too.
Character matters so much.
Yeah. And I think that like
someone who you have to be someone who wants to work on yourself too.
Yeah.
Internally. You have to want to be internally such a good person and the best version of yourself.
Well, I think the best compliment is still like when somebody says to you like, wow, you're like such a good person, or wow, like you made my day, or like I feel like I go home loving that so much more than being called pretty, because I think if somebody calls you like attractive, you kind of like it like kind of goes in one ear out the other, not because it's not like nice to hear, but I just think that like again then the voices in your head be like, oh, did they even, it's just because I look like this today, they don't really see how I look like when I wake up in the morning, like all these things happen, so it just feels very like, okay, that's cool. It doesn't feel like it really hits you the same, but when somebody like makes a comment about the person you are, it really is like, it just makes you feel so good. I really think that. And it's
interesting too because we validate girls so much based on how pretty they are. Since the time you're 5 years old. Like,
oh my gosh,
you're pretty dressed, you're pretty this, you're pretty hair, but do we say that to boys?
No, we're like, you're good at sports.
Boy, like you've got a very handsome outfit on today. Like,
literally.
You don't tell them your haircut looks very handsome. Like every time you see a girl, it's all about like
how they look.
Pretty. Like
which is where it starts. And you actually mentioned something about your daughter the other day. She asked for something. I wanted you to.
And I have 3 daughters, so I take this very seriously, and 1 son. And then they know what I do, of course. Yeah. One of them is like, Mom, I hate my nose, I hate my lips, I hate my blah, blah, all this stuff. Can you fix it? And I'm like, sure, you come in the office, I'll fix all that. But the only one condition is you have to love yourself first. Like, it doesn't matter.
See, I love that you said that.
Yeah, like, I can numb you up, we can do all the things, but it's going to be just another thing you pursue for happiness until you really like who you are on the inside.
Yeah.
It's like these girls who are addicted to buying purses. You buy one purse, you think your life is made, then no. You're on to the next purse, you're on to the next purse. Same thing with filler. You can be on to the next area. And are you ever going to get happy? You got to realize that this external stuff on our face, this, the meat on our face, it's not you. You are internally who you are, and you have to love that girl first.
Well, sometimes I even make like a practice in my own self recently that I'll try not to look in the mirror. Is like so much in a day, just because I find that the less I look in the mirror, the happier I feel. Like
totally,
just in the sense that like
just live your day.
Just live your day, and it's just funny because even when I pass a mirror, I'll try not to look, because for so long I had an obsession in looking in every mirror and making sure that like I'm perfect and all these things, especially growing up with such bad body dysmorphia. And I think recently I've really been making it an active choice not to like really focus on a mirror, like just make it like cool, like a passing thought, and it's really made me feel better, because I think it just makes me feel like a human, and I really feel that I enjoy my life more when I avoid that.
I think of course that social media is such a difficult thing because it is amazing and it connects people like it's connected
No,
me
yeah,
and you.
100%.
And it's also destroying our children because the anxiety that they have, the need to feel that every picture, every angle has to be perfect. It's just obsessive.
And it's just not realistic. And I think the whole point of this, especially us talking and me talking to you, is because you do this for a living and you obviously talk to and do work on, you know, so many women and obviously men as well, but the majority women.
10% men, 90% women.
And I think that, like, it's interesting just because, listen, as all of our moms have told us, and I'm sure you tell your daughters, is looks fade regardless of how good you can look for how many years. Regardless of that, even if you look like J-Lo, right? It's like, looks still fade. It's like, does she look the way she did at 18? I mean, she looks absolutely stunning, but like, she definitely doesn't, like, she doesn't look 18. She may look 30. She looks great. But the whole point is that you can't look 18 forever. And I think there's something to be said about that. And I actually think she does a great job, especially in her recent movie. She talks about those type of things.
I think transparency is everything. Like when I tell people, I'm so open about what I've had done. I've had filler, I have Sculptra, biostimulators, tox, everything. And it's because this is my vehicle for life. This is my Ferrari. Of course I have to put maintenance into it.
You know what? That is so true. Oh my God, I'm so glad that you just said that. You made such a good point because when people, and I'm kind of being a hypocrite here, but like to a certain extent, this is your job, right? So when you go to a nutritionist or a trainer and it doesn't feel like maybe they're working on their body or their health, why is it that you want to work with them? And that's sort of the way that I think the entertainment business is, in the sense that the pressure that you must look a certain way to feel attractive to somebody else wanting to work with you. So I do think you have a good point, but I think you have to be healthy about it. I'm not saying you go crazy and it's like, I guess without having to like,
maintenance.
Right, it's just maintenance in the field that you're in. So there's nothing wrong. Again, I want to make that a point to say nothing wrong with taking care of yourself. I think that's a beautiful thing.
And even if you take care of yourself, I think, to the point that other people think is unreasonable, we still have to allow for self-expression. Like, I mean, would you say Dolly Parton should go get double D's, whatever size she is? Like, no, most normal women are not going to opt for what she chose, but that is a beautiful thing because that makes
she
Dolly
likes
Parton.
Okay,
it makes
you
her
just said
who
it.
she is. Like, I'm never going to tell Dolly, you can't get such big implants. I'm like, you go and you did it and you're amazing. I love you because you're Dolly and you need that in your life.
Exactly, and you
so,
just,
you know, people can morph their outer experience, their outer them to match who they feel like they are internally.
Okay, see, this is the moral of the story, and I'm so glad we came back here because I think what we're trying to say is that I think that we need to do these things for how we feel, not to make other people feel a certain way.
Yeah, less judgment.
But overall. I do think the fact that we said in terms of the jobs, like you being obviously, like, would you call yourself? It's a plastic surgeon, right?
I do faces.
Faces,
yes,
yeah.
Plastics.
But obviously in your job and in just any job, my job in being entertainment, it's like, or, you know, a personal trainer, a nutritionist, all these things. I do think there's a certain element of like being able to seem like a professional in that field, but I just don't think there's any reason to have to go overboard unless, again, going back to, is this something that truly makes you feel good and are you doing it just for yourself?
I think so, right? Those are the extremes, but everybody would agree, like, no one's going to tell Dolly not to be Dolly.
Right, because it's Dolly. It's Dolly Parton.
Exactly, right? So interesting, but then I see crazy ladies, too, like, did you know I had a 35-year-old who wanted to do a facelift, and I just think that is
that would be like
too
me,
much perfection.
That'd be like me getting a facelift. Like,
I
could never.
I just think that there's a certain amount of like grow up slowly, enjoy who you are at every stage in life. Don't feel the need to be like an AI robot, and perfection is not a good goal to have. It destroys women.
When you told me that, it was just, it's so sad because it's like, that's not even, hopefully, knock on wood, but hopefully at our age, you know, when you're in your mid-30s, it's like how you have half your life to still live. You know what I'm saying?
More than half, yeah.
So to me, it's like, why is it that like you don't want to see what that looks like for at least like 10 more years before?
Yeah. Or also, who is putting so much pressure on you to be perfect? Is it yourself? Is it you trying to keep up with the girl next door or the Kardashians or whoever? But I don't know, that's such an important question because I see that trend happening now that people want to go to surgery earlier and earlier, and it doesn't solve all your problems. And too much surgery does make you look funny.
Well, let me ask you this question. So when do you think it's healthy to start thinking about a facelift if you did want one?
I think that
What age?
there's so much maintenance you can do with just Botox and fillers and really great collagen stimulators, which grow your own natural collagen that can last 10 years. So that can take you up to 50, 55. Age 55 is about the time when you have skin laxity and skin stretch. Like, you know, sometimes your skin loses elasticity, like last year's bathing suit. There's too much skin, too much stretch. You can't keep putting more and more filler. So that's around 55 to 60 we might need to tighten and trim.
And that's a facelift?
That's a facelift or a neck lift. And then each time you do those big surgeries, you get about 10 years out of that before the collagen changes and you might need to do it again. And so then you can do one at 55, you can maybe do one at 75. These days women are living to be amazing till you're 85 or 90. So I think 2 facelifts in your lifetime, plenty. And people who do collagen stimulators may never need a facelift because their collagen remains so youthful and good.
Now, I have another question for you. When do you think it's healthy for a woman to start getting Botox or fillers? Because obviously, as you said, and a lot of people say it is preventative. Is the filler preventative too, or is it just the Botox?
To some extent, yes, especially if you're doing like weight loss or Ozempic or those kind of treatments. Maintaining volume and not getting drooping from sudden weight loss is a great idea. But yeah, I think in general, like I started my first Botox around age 28. So when you start to see fine lines at rest, you don't want those etched lines to stay there because skin is like a piece of paper. The more you repeatedly fold it, the more it will keep those lines. So
got it.
It's just a soft baby dose, and you may even do it once a year when you're in your 20, 28, 29, 30. And then, you know, as you get to be a little bit older, you might do that 2 to 3 times per year. So it's just really lovely because it gives a soft, calm, refreshed, you know, your expression looks pretty. It doesn't have to look frozen.
If you get filler when you're like 28 versus like when you're 50, let's say, do you feel like there's more effects when you're 28 versus when you start at 50? Because some people will be 50.
Some people start at 50, and honestly, I think
I was like brain fart.
That is like too late. I honestly feel you have a lot of catching up to do. If you don't do any maintenance for
That's what I'm saying, until you're 50.
Yeah, for the decades of your 30s, 40s, and suddenly you hit 50 and you realize that you have a lot of work to do. Can we do it? Yes, we do it all the time because people do put it off. But the ladies who've kept up with each decade and kind of doing little subtle, one syringe where we do micro droplets and kind of keep the whole face hydrated, they age very beautifully. Like they really, I really think that is the way to go, and that's what I've been doing for my own face for the last 20 years, just
and you look great.
Gradual. Yeah, so I want to encourage women. I think that the more we show that, the more we teach people, like beauty standards are not, they create too much artificial pressure for perfection, but we really want to enforce individuality and like small treatments where you just feel refreshed.
Now, do you feel like if you're 18 coming in for Botox and filler, is that something that you're like, I don't suggest, or do you?
I always do a double take because 18 is a little young, and I think that sometimes people think that TikTok is teaching them you start at that baby age, but only if you see changes on your skin. Like, I don't need to treat skin that looks amazing, and I would kind of sway you away from injectables or Botox if you come in and I don't see any major skin changes, and we might focus on peels, microneedling, which is super natural and grows new collagen, and then great skincare.
Do you think it's dangerous for somebody that's 18? Not dangerous in terms of, but dangerous in terms of like what they, obviously will progress with their...
I think that this is where body dysmorphia starts. Very often at that age where you're really scrutinizing yourself and you're unrealistic about everyone around you is perfect and you're not. So that's where it's like so important to connect on.
So it's more psychological.
Yeah, I have to always kind of gauge, like, is there a psychological issue going on with this person? Are they being really healthy about this decision? Should I discourage them? So I'm really good about doing that.
Oh, see, this is what we want to hear. I mean, so can you, lastly, I know we're going on forever, but I'd love, at least for people that are watching the Green Room, to understand what microneedling does, like a vampire facial, for example.
Oh, yeah, I love it. Yeah. Love it. So that's going to be this treatment where we numb your whole face, we draw your blood and harvest the stem cell growth factors. And then that gets needled in. Your skin is numb, but it's 550 little titanium needles that just go bzzz all over the face.
Wow.
And those little openings,
you've
done it, right?
I've done it. I'm acting like I haven't done it. I'm like, I've done it.
She's done it. I've done it.
Yeah.
Each little opening is a minor skin injury. Injury gets repaired with collagen, so you can get up to 400% more collagen production. And then these little openings in the skin are where those stem cell growth factors will enter the skin and really give you that natural boost of antioxidants, nutrients. It's one of the best things you can do for your skin. I don't even recommend a regular facial. I'd rather you do a microneedling and do them on the regular, like once every, quarter of the year. That's a good idea.
Well, that's good.
Yeah.
And then one last question too is there anything for, just in terms of, there's so many things particular that you have in terms of skincare, but what are things that people can use just to maintain their skin? I get asked this a lot, obviously I've been going to you, so thank you for that, but people do ask me about my skin or like certain things, and I you've really helped me on that, so I can obviously say what I use.
I keep it so simple, but I think like the Bible is, at age 20, you need to start vitamin C every day, twice a day from 20 till 90.
Well, I take vitamin C sometimes.
I'm going to give you our vitamin C serum because that gets you lighter, brighter, tighter. It knocks out brown spots. It's one of the collagen cofactors. You need your vitamin C serum. I love hyaluronic acid in our 30s. It hydrates, that's when dry skin starts. You must start an eye cream in your 30s because this skin is the earliest to thin out, the crepey under eye skin. When that thins, that's when drooping begins. And everyone, if you're 30, you must have Retin-A every night at bedtime.
Okay.
And if your skin doesn't tolerate Retin-A, don't worry, we have other things that you can use, but that's one of the main things I recommend is the Retin-A every night at bedtime. And sunscreen, of course. 90% of aging comes from the sun.
Oh.
So 90% is a huge number.
Stay out of the sun. I know now. I'm like, trust me.
You wonder why all of our grandmas have beautiful, peachy skin. It's because they stayed out of the sun, and sunscreen is so key.
It's pretty crazy to think about because I know that it looks so nice. In the beginning, I used to be obsessed with tanning.
Yeah.
But I've really tried to stay out of the sun for the last 5 years just because it's like, obviously if you're on a boat or things like that, like I'll wear sunscreen, but in general I try to, as much as I don't want this, I'll try to stay in the shade just because I know how bad it is for you. So I'm glad that you're, people know it, but it's good that you're repeating that for people.
Yeah, but try to keep it simple, but just start. And those are the things that each decade you should really be doing.
Well, I'm so glad. This has been good.
Yeah,
I'm glad that we did this.
Yeah. We've been all the time, we talk about beauty standards and how it affects your work, my work, and like the people that we love around us. And I'm so sympathetic to all the musicians and women that are facing these questions.
Well, I just think it was important, especially to hear from you, and I was really excited to talk to you about this because, again, going back to why I do this, it's a whole different thing, but for you to see it as a professional that actually is going in to help people or want people that want to fix these things that come to you for help is a totally different perspective. So I think it's really nice to be able to talk to, obviously, your people that will be watching for Dr. K, but also for the Green Room, just on a mental health tip, and just to make sure that you're checking in on yourself, making sure that you feel good, and it's not just about the physical, but if it is, do it in the right ways, and obviously listen to Dr. K. She knows what she's doing.
Oh my gosh. Love you so much.
Thank
you for having me.
Of course. Well, thank you. This is a double podcast.
I
love it. Cool.
Well, that's it for now, guys. Don't forget to find me on my Instagram. It's Beauty by Dr. K, DRKAY, and that's where all that great skincare is. And love you to the moon.
Love you.
It's Jenna Andrews. Check her out. Follow her. She helps write the best songs in the world.
Yay.